Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I'm sorry, I'm a teacher. I'm going to ask you all to come closer, inshallah. I don't mean to take you away from these luxury box seats over here, you know. Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulih al-Kareem amma ba'ad. We express our praise and gratitude to Allah. He gets interested in Islam. So she sends him to me. Okay? And I might have been the first Desi uncle who was nice to him in his whole life. And so he starts coming to me on a regular basis. I give him assignments. We go through the seerah of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Often that's the first assignment I give to students. And I tell them, your intention is to develop love for the Prophet, peace be upon him. He'll come back to me and he says, my parents are just like the Quraysh. They're a bunch of idol worshippers. And I say, okay, be nice. drunk with in the front row of Jummah. Okay? And so then I started laughing. I said, at least be happy that they're coming to Jummah. Now, mashallah. But look at what he said about his friends that come to Jummah. Look at the relationship he was in the lead up. And there I've given you a taste of what is not the anomaly on college campuses. Okay? I'll tell you a couple more. Difficult stories, happy stories. More difficult stories. Not going to get into as much detail, especially because I don't want to share too many of these stories with the little kids here. Difficult stories. So, Catholic University is where I teach. So on the application for college, they ask you, what is your religion? Okay? In the year immediately after COVID, after quarantine, or let me first say, every summer I get a list of all the students who are incoming who say that they're Muslim. In a given year, 150 students, 170 students self-identify as Muslim. And then I send them a letter from myself saying, welcome to campus, I'm your Muslim chaplain. They don't know what a chaplain is, but I explain to them what I do. And then I invite them to meet with me. The year after quarantine, 10 students sent me a note in response saying, please remove me from this list, I'm not Muslim anymore. Okay? But I want you to think, on the application they said they're Muslim. In the 9 months from their application until this moment, something happened. Okay? Dark side, or unhappy side. Happy side. In a given year on campus, I usually have 1, 2, 3 converts, reverts to Islam, who get interested for all kinds of reasons, just like this Hindu student who became Muslim, all kinds of reasons. Maybe sometimes they just are curious about Islam. That's in a normal year. Last year, we had 40. Okay? We went from 3 literally up to 40, pre-October 7th. Okay? After October 7th, many people have come to me saying that they're interested in Islam, potentially become Muslim and such, and I invite them to the office and such. But why is this happening? Okay? We have all these people who are coming in to the dean. I don't have an answer for you for what is happening. And maybe the same thing is happening here at this masjid too. But consider this. What is going on? Okay, let me reframe this a different way. Now, having said that, that's sort of the introduction. I want to put you into the mind of a common college student. First, I want you to think of the environment that they were raised in. Many of us are old enough that we were adults on 9/11. The common college student now was born years after 9/11, right? We're even at the end of Generation Z. Now we're at what's called Gen Alpha. Okay? Gen Alpha tend to be born around 2008 or later. Gen Z, Generation Z, that generation is now getting a little bit older. But they have no memory of 9/11. They're younger than 9/11, but they still are being raised in the shadow of 9/11. Okay? What do I mean by this? Without saying it directly, it's still in the air. Okay? And this gets connected to other things. Think of the way Hamas is presented in the news. Think of the way, anything related to Palestine is presented in the news. Okay? That the default in the way you and I are depicted in the news, the default is that we are savages, right? That the default is that one side you have the forces of people who are civil, and the other side you have the forces who are savage, okay? But the point I want you to consider is that young people are being raised in this without realizing it, okay? Meaning they're often being raised to have some amount of self-extra criticism, perhaps self-hate. Another point I'd like you to think about is that we all know the experience of being a minority in this society. But I want you to think about, for those who are parents, and I think many of us in this room are parents, mashallah, that when you are raising your child, what level of confidence are you putting into your child? I'll give you an example. Very often I have parents who come to me complaining or asking for help, and my child never listens to me, or my child is going astray. And one of the questions I ask them is, how often do you praise your child? How often do you criticize your child? Okay? Because number one, there should be some balance here. But the deeper point is that even if your child is 4 years old or 14 years old, the logic should make sense. I am being punished because I did this. I am being punished this hard because I did this that deserves to be punished this hard. I'm being praised because I did this. I'm being praised this much because I did this. Think of something basic, like they spill their food on the ground and they don't clean it up. Okay? Or they clean their room. Let's say they make a mess, they don't clean it up, they get in trouble. How much do they get in trouble? They should feel a logic. I got in trouble because I did this. I got in trouble this much because this is how severe it is. They clean their room, they pick up all their toys. I'm being praised because I did this. I'm being praised this much because of how important it is. But what very often happens when the parents are coming to my office is they criticize the child when they're doing something wrong, but they don't praise the child when the child is doing something right. And so this is a point for all of us who are parents to do our own self-assessment. Okay? Am I doing both? Am I giving them criticism? Am I giving them praise at the appropriate time? And there's another thing that is necessary. Your child needs to hear things like, I love you, I'm proud of you. Okay? I'll give you an example. What I just said, I said almost exactly the same thing in a Jummah khutbah in a different masjid. And someone came to me to complain about his 13-year-old son who's not listening to him. And I asked him, how often do you tell your son you love him? And then what did he say? He knows I love him. Okay? But I'm saying that when you're raised here, you have to hear it. Okay? Every kid knows their parents love them. Okay? But you still need to hear it. Okay? It doesn't mean you say nonstop. You still give them criticism when it's necessary, you still give them praise, but saying I love you is something on its own. Another point to consider. When we speak of the attributes of Allah, they get categorized in many different ways. One of the very common ways is you have the attributes of Jalal and you have the attributes of Jamal, right? Some of the attributes of Allah, Al-Adl, Al-Mudhil, are these attributes of Jalal, of majesty, of power. Then you have the attributes of Jamal, the attributes of beauty, Rahman, Rahim, so forth and so on, okay? And generally, the mother is the Jamal, the father is the Jalal. Okay? And what am I saying here? That the father is very often the authority of force. Even if he's very gentle, his voice, because it is so strong, becomes the authority of force. The mother becomes the voice of nurturing. Okay? And of course, there's some amount of crossover, of course. But the child needs to get a certain amount of validation over the course of their life from their father, meaning it translates as self-confidence, self-worth. And from the mother, they need a certain amount of nurturing, tenderness. Sometimes nurturing comes from father, sometimes validation comes from mother. But the point to consider is that if I didn't get my full need of this type of love from my father, I'm going to look for it somewhere else. Okay? So hopefully I won't be confusing. Imagine you need 100 units of validation. What is validation? I'm proud of you. You did this well. You're so good. You're so smart. That you work so hard. If I only got 90% of what I need, I still need 10% more. And if I'm not getting it from my father, I'm going to look someplace else. But they're not going to be able to give me the amount of validation my father can give me. But the point is, I have this need that I'm going everywhere for. If I don't have all the nurture that I needed in my life, I'm going to look for it somewhere else. Okay? So I want you to consider these stories that I'm giving you of students that are going in the wrong direction. They're making their choice. They're adults making their choice. But the question to raise, how much is the parent's influence? Okay? Again, they're facing Allah on their own. Okay? But I'm saying this as a parent, checking myself, not blaming their parents, but a point to consider. Let me add it from another perspective. So periodically, I'll have students who come to the office and say, I want to leave Islam, I want to become an atheist. Okay? In a given year, it'll be a few. And every single time, the pattern has been the same. I've been doing this over 20 years. The pattern has been the same for literally over 20 years. I ask them, explain to me why. They give me all of their explanations, and usually it's theological arguments. How can you have free will and predestination? Why does Allah create suffering if He's so merciful? So forth and so on. But never has that been the real reason they left. Because I let them talk, and I let them talk, and I let them talk, and I let them talk. And the first time that this happened, the student, after talking to me, it felt like it was 6 hours talking to me nonstop. It was probably about 1 hour. But he finally paused and he said, okay, here's the real story. 6 months ago, my brother died in a car accident or a motorcycle accident, and I can't cope. So his way to cope was to turn against Allah. Okay? Or, very often, it's anger. Okay? And usually, it's anger against the parents. And usually, it's anger against the fathers. Okay? Over and over and over again. Okay? Whether the anger is fair, that's a different issue. But what I'm saying, the case has been over and over again, is these people who are leaving the deen for nothing, okay, for atheism. It's because of some pain in their heart that is usually either because of a tragedy or because of anger against their parents or anger against their fathers in particular. Okay? And consider this, because this has been the pattern again and again and again. And so then, what is the suggestion for how to heal this? Okay? That what they're essentially saying, without realizing it, is I did not get enough rahmah in my life. Okay? But what they're actually saying is I do not have enough shukr in my heart. So let me take a step back here. If I ask every one of you, count how many blessings Allah has given you, the number is infinity, right? You can't. Okay? But very often when I have a student come into the office and I ask them, tell me what you have to be grateful for in your life, maybe they for those who have children, depending upon what age they are, does your child feel comfortable? If they have a problem, do they feel comfortable coming to you? Or are they afraid they're going to get yelled at? Are they afraid they're going to get in trouble even if they're not at fault? Can I honestly say yes to that question? Okay. And I'll say on campus, I told you give or take an average of 700 Muslims. That number of students who have such a relationship with one parent is very, very small. The number of students who have such a relationship with both parents, what am I saying? That they feel comfortable if I have a problem, if I'm having a big problem, if I'm in trouble, even if it's my fault, I can go to my father for help. I can go to my mother for help, okay? Especially if it's not my fault. That number becomes very, very small. And this is just me asking them directly. Can you go to your parents for this? I'll make the same point a different way. This is kind of silly, but it still makes the point. So suppose you have a child. Suppose you are the child, okay? And you're in a competition with 50,000 students. Competition, math competition, let's say, science competition. And you come in second. And you go to the parents, I came in second in this competition. What do the parents say? Say it? Why not first? Yeah. Why not first? Okay. What does the parent mean? What is the child hearing? The parent is saying, why not first? Because I know you could come in first. I know you have the ability to come in first. So why didn't you come in first? What is the child hearing? You failed. Okay? But that's not what the parent meant. Okay? Literally, I'm talking to my daughter, mashallah, she's in law school now, but before she started college, I say to her, we're driving in the car somewhere at random, and I'm thinking, as we all do, and I say to her randomly, okay, make sure you don't skip class in college. And she says to me, what makes you say I'm going to skip class? Good. I say, no. Okay. You're going to be tempted to skip class, right? And try not to. So the point I'm saying, my beloved brothers and sisters, that the fact that you're here on a Friday night does mean that you probably have some serious amount of concern for your own deen, concern for your families and such. But the test for yourself, if you have children, inshallah, is how comfortable are they to come to you in struggle? And inshallah, the answer is they're completely comfortable. And related is how often do you tell them, I love you, I'm proud of you. And when they do right, how much do you praise them? When they do wrong, how much do you criticize them? And that, back to my point about the students on campus, the students who have a good relationship with one parent